Okay, so now that we're booted up here, I'm going to open up a browser menu here. So I can go ahead and double check here that I have everything correct. So, well, yeah, there's also 420, so blaze it. But let's see. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and open up a terminal window here. Oh yeah, this is also definitely a lot different from when I last showed the system off. It was using Xmonad. I was obviously using XFCE for terminal. A lot of things have changed. I went from that Gentoo installation to I think Artix Linux to a different Gentoo installation, back to Artix, then to Gentoo again, but that install failed because I had a problem with some desktop manager. I don't remember what it was, and I went to Art. But now we're back here on this Gentoo installation. You can see up here, well here, and also up here that it's Gentoo. And if I run merge, then you know I should prove it. I could also, well, if I had NeoFetch installed, I can also NeoFlex here. So I'm just going to install this real quick to NeoFlex, as I like to call it. And well, gosh dang it. Yeah, it's Gentoo. You know, we're only using like what, 2 gigs of RAM, but I have a browser open, and also OBS is recording. So yeah, we're on DWM, and for my terminal I'm using URXVT or RXVT Unicode, whatever you like to call it. Yeah, so what we need to do now is you need to go ahead and, well, first off, you need to make sure that IOMMU is supported in your kernel. I'm going to bring this over here in frame real quick, and if any of these are not on, you'll need to turn them on. Now, if you remember, if you have an AMD CPU, you only need to turn on these AMD ones and not the Intel ones here. So if you have an AMD CPU like I do, you would enable this one, and then this one, and leave these off, because again, if you don't have an Intel CPU, don't enable Intel stuff. It's bad KGBs or something. So what you need to do now is actually etc default grub is we need to, well, if I can put the right password in, we need to go to, I think it's grub command line Linux. Yep, here we go. So in here, we're going to type IOMMU equals PT. And if you have an AMD CPU, you want to go ahead and put AMD IOMMU equals on. If you have an Intel CPU, you would put Intel IOMMU on. I have an AMD CPU, so I'm going to do AMD IOMMU and turn that on. Another thing is that the Gentoo wiki has like all this ACS override stuff. I don't need to ACS override patch my kernel because I know that my PCI devices load properly. So yeah, I'm also going to go ahead and go 2 steps ahead, or a bunch of steps ahead, I don't know. And I'm going to do an lspci nnk, and where is it? Here it is. I'm going to grab these, and I'm going to put this over here, and sure, I can go here. So here, so we're going to go ahead and close that terminal. vfio-pci.ids equals, and now we're going to go ahead and let's see, what was it? 1002 6070F. Is that correct? Yep. Okay. So I have gone ahead and done that. So if I go ahead and right quit and grub mkconfig -o boot grub.config. If I do that, that should go ahead and create the correct image with the correct options enabled. Another thing as well here is, I'm going to drag it back over. Make sure you have the VFIO kernel drivers installed. I think on Gen kernel they are compiled in the kernel, and also you can add it here in the mod probe section. Personally, I like to put it in the boot options because I just personally like to put it in the boot options, so that if for whatever reason it doesn't work, all I need to do is just, well, reset the boot options back to what they were by default, which is a lot easier than, in my opinion, than having to find the mod, go into the mod probe config, change it. And I think with that you need to recompile the init ramfs, which can take a while. I just find it easy to just remove it, to just put in the boot options, because you change the boot options, you regenerate the config, and all is good. So we are going to go ahead and reboot the system here, so I will be back momentarily. Alright, now that we've gone ahead and applied the VFIO patch and also set IOMMU, I should say, let's see if they let's see if those have been turned on. So we can easily check if IOMMU has been turned off. We go ahead and do dmessage grep IOMMU enabled. Do you need to be root for that? Let me check the Arch Wiki, because I know the Arch Wiki has I guess a more specific command that you can run that lets it know. Oh yeah, here we go. So, dmessage grep I e dmar e IOMMU. And it says, yeah, here we go, AMD-VI and AMD IOMMU v2 loaded and initialized. So that, if you run that one instead of the one here on the Gentoo wiki, I guess the one on the Gentoo wiki is not up to date. I don't remember when this was last updated, but yeah, that seems to work a lot better. So what we're going to do now is we're also going to do lspci nnk, and as I thought these two are not in, they're not binded with the VFIO PCI driver, so I don't know if those are bound to the, or if Gen kernel loads them onto the kernel by default. Let's take a look. Well, I need to become. Whoops, that's not the right password. Okay, cd usr src linux. Does this have? Yeah, .config. Okay, so let's see here. Make menu config real quick. CD device drivers. So a lot of the stuff is just going to be on or modularized. VFIO non-privileged. So they've been moduled. So my guess is that they haven't been loaded. or what you have to do on Arch anyways, is you need to tell it to load the modules. Okay, so this is my custom kernel config, which I know actually works. We're going to modulate. We're not going to make that a module. We're going to build it into the kernel. And VFI generic VFIO PCI support for VGA devices. Turn that off because I do not have an Intel graphics. Save that, and then I think it's F12 to quit. Oh, I can just do that. And then we're going to go ahead and actually, hold on. Config, kernel.config, mkkernel.sh. I have this handy script here actually to automatically go and generate a kernel actually. So give this a sec. As you can see, CPU is kind of spiking here because I mean we are building a kernel, but I'm gonna go ahead and give this a second. I know that I also said that I'd make a video about going into kernel config. I might still do that, but most of the time for making a custom kernel, it's just finding like what it is that you need to enable by just cross-referencing the Gentoo wiki. So for example, for setting up your AMD CPUs to work, you need to just check the Gentoo wiki, follow its instructions, apply it to your kernel config, and just go from there. So I mean, it's more of just you just go in, find what it is that you need to enable by just looking it up, and also just activating again whatever it says. For example, for AMD CPUs, there's a bunch of stuff that you can enable for like temperature monitoring. It's there in the Gentoo wiki. You just Google AMD CPU Gentoo or AMD GPU Gentoo, and it has all the steps you need to get those to work correctly in Gentoo. So there's not really, I don't see the necessity of making a kernel config video, but hey, I don't know, if it gets popular enough, I might make a video going into it. Seeing that this is doing AMD GPU stuff, I think we're almost done with this kernel config here. And hopefully after I reboot, it should hopefully modulize, or I don't know what I'm saying. It should hopefully load the other graphics card as a mod with the AMD or VFIO PCI drivers, so that it will it'll work. And also on my Gentoo GitHub repository where I have all of my Gentoo related stuff, I'll try and update that if I remember to. I think this should finish pretty shortly. Okay, I also need to go and ls deboot folder because gen kernel has all of its stuff that it makes. I had a folder here, boot temp, let's see what it is. So that's what it is. So I need to move boot x86 underscore 64 boot cmp. Okay. And then grub mk config boot grub.config. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and restart, and hopefully this should work how I want it to. Okay, so this is going to be a little weird jumping over from, well, let me close Discord and Spotify real quick because those don't need to be open. Is we're going to go ahead and jump into Windows real quick because what we're going to need is to install GPUZ. Because there's a very important step with virtual machines that I don't think it's required, but you should do it anyways, and that is to actually pull the BIOS of your graphics card off of the card itself. And you can really only do this in Windows as far as I'm concerned. There is a way on Linux to do it, but I found that the easiest way to do it is, well, on Windows. So what we're going to do is pretty much you're going to open up Tech PowerUp GPUZ. If you go on Google and just look up GPUZ and you go to the Tech PowerUp link, you can just download it. We're going to click this button here to save the BIOS. So we're going to go ahead and click Save the File. And if you just give it a sec. Any second now. I don't think it liked that, actually. Don't report that to Microsoft. Okay, hold on, let's... What? Let's try this. Okay, I'm not too sure what was wrong with that shortcut, but well, let's start here with DRX 480, because this is the device that we're going to be passing through over to our virtual machine. Is we're going to go ahead and just, hopefully this time it'll, okay, there we go. So I'm going to save it to the desktop as rx480.rom. So that was 256 megabytes. See if I can do the 5700 XT this time. Or if this is just going to crash again. And it looks like I don't think this version of GPUZ likes my main graphics card, which is fine because I already have this ROM somewhere else, and plus this isn't the card that we're using, so I'm not going to worry about it. But you're going to want to go ahead, and the graphics card that you're going to pass through to a VM, you're going to want to go ahead and dump it. Now, I'm pretty sure you only need to do this for AMD graphics cards, but it might be best to just do it for NVIDIA cards anyways. I don't know if it'll increase performance. I don't have an NVIDIA card, so I can't tell you. I haven't tested it, but in my experience, what I've had to do was pull the ROM for my graphics card add it to the virtual machine, and sometimes it seems to work a lot better than not doing it, but I don't know. Just play. You'll have to play with it and find out. There is a way to do this on Linux, but I think it's a little dangerous than just using GPUZ on Windows, where you can it'll just pull it like it just did. But whatever. Anyways, now that we have this GPU ROM, go ahead and save this somewhere that Linux can access. I have a NAS on my local network that I'm just going to save it to. I'll just save it here. But yeah, just go ahead and save this somewhere and you should be good to go. And just, again, save it somewhere that you can access on Linux. And yeah. Okay, so now that we're here, as you can see, we're now in this kernel that I made, lspci nmk, and the driver in use is VFIO-PCI, and it does say that it's using the kernel module for AMD GPU, but I'm pretty sure that that is fine. I don't think that will cause problems. I think that's fine. We're going to find out. But why did I close that? Because still need this. So what we're going to do is now we need to install Vert Manager. But if you just run, emerge Vert Manager and install it, it's not going to work because you need to supply a library for it. So we're going to go ahead into vim etc portage. Now we're not going to go into make.com. We're going to go into package.use, and I'm going to call this KVM because most of the time this package.use is a folder. Sometimes it can be a file, but it's a folder in my case. So here we're going to put app emulation Vert Manager, and I'm pretty sure what we need to it needs is the GTK use flag. And now you can do as emerge or sudo emerge Vert Manager, and let's take a look. Vert Manager use GTK. Yep, so this will have all of the libraries it needs. Let's see, is it going to compile anything that I know is large? QEMU might be a little hefty. Let me check my. I don't need to do as, but etc portage make.conf. Okay. So this is set up correctly. So we're gonna go ahead and start the compile. I am gonna go ahead and stop the recording or pause it while this compiles, so that I can save CPUs. So I can save CPU resources towards compiling. So I will be back once this is done. So this isn't done just yet, but because it's doing QEMU, which might take a while. But while it's doing that, I am going to go ahead and open up thunar, or you can really use any file manager, but I'm just going to use thunar. And what? Okay, I don't have the Samba plugin installed, so I guess we're not using thunar. And what I'll do instead is we're just going to open up another terminal instance, and I need to actually do this as root. So mount.cifs, that is installed, right? Yeah, so 10.0.0.36 doco. Well, actually, hold on. Make dir mount netfs, and do as mount.cifs 10.0.0.36 echo mount netfs o user equals doco bad UNC. Oh, I need to Do that. Do that. CIFS file system not supported by the system. Oh. That's why I need to recompile my kernel. Oh, that's why that's not going to work. Okay, well, that's a bummer. Well, I guess we'll just open up my web browser. Yeah, restore. Well, this is almost done to the point where I guess I can go over this. Next thing you're going to want is, well, the Windows 10 ISO, which you can grab by just Googling Windows 10 ISO. Now we're going to click download. Windows 10 multi-edition ISO. Click confirm. I speak English. Click that. And you're going to want the 64-bit download. Don't get the 32-bit, get the 64-bit. And we're going to go ahead and download that. That's only going to take 3 minutes. How fast is it downloading? I don't know. Okay, so this is done. So what we can also do is rc update add libvirt default. I think it's libvirt is what it's called. Yep. And then vert log d default. Yep. Okay. So close this. Go here, and we're gonna go ahead and open up Vert Manager. Okay. I think I remember this error. What you need to do is you need to group add libvirt. I think is what it was called. And then do as user mod ag libvirt. Do that, and then you need to reemerge libvirt. I think that was the fix for that. Yeah, this is also almost done. But if you open up Vert Manager and it doesn't work, I think what you need to do is just create the libvirt group, add it to your user, and then reemerge a libvirt. I think that was the fix for it. Okay, so I figured out with why Qami wasn't working. What you need to do is you need to go into etc of, not that, what was it? Libvirt and then libvirtd.com. And you need to go in here, auth underscore unix underscore rw equals none, uncomment that line. Auth underscore unix underscore ro equals none, uncomment that line. Unix underscore socket underscore rw underscore perms and unix underscore socket underscore ro perms equals 0777. That needs to be uncommented, and unix underscore sock underscore group equals libvirt also needs to be uncommented. If you uncomment those and restart the libvirt service, it lets Virtual Machine Manager actually access libvirt. I forgot about that step, but it's all good. I fixed it. So now what I'm going to do is, not clean, let me clear, is before we go ahead and start creating virtual machines, I need to create a partition. I need to create a partition on my other SSD for my virtual machines. So we're going to go ahead and enter, not gparted, cf disk dev nvme 1 and 1. And you're going to see that this already has a Windows installation. I could pass this over to the virtual machine as a PCI device, but I also don't really want to do that, because if I'm going to do that, at that point I could just dual boot, and then at that point it's just like, why make this whole series? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that partition and delete that. And this is the 1 terabyte partition. This is where all my Windows stuff is installed. I'm also going to delete this. Now, if you are going to install it to real hard, do VMs and stuff on real hardware, whereas then you're going to take a disk and create partitions, make sure that whatever disk you're deleting you backed up all your important data. This doesn't really have a whole lot on it. Like, it has some files for, like, games and stuff, but, the games that are installed, I don't mind reinstalling. They're not that massive anyways, so I'm just going to go ahead and reinstall them. Actually, wait, hold on. There is one game that I should probably back up. Do I have NTFS 3G and then fuse? Oh, I can just NTFS. What am I doing? I'm in root. Why am I trying to run do as in root? Oh. Pass. So I'm going to go ahead and install these real quick. And I'm going to go and back up that game, because I don't really want to sit and download another 80 gigs twice in my virtual machine and here. So I'm actually going to head back the game up, so I'll be right back when that's done. Okay, got that game that I wanted copied over. Well, copied over, so I'm going to unmount that. So, let's see. I guess the easiest way would be to do it in parted. So dev nvme 1 and 1. I don't have parted installed. Let's see. Let's emerge parted then. Excuse me. So this is going to go ahead and install real quick. Okay. So let's go ahead and... I don't need to re-emerge it. Gosh dang it. So let's print. So this is going to recognize it as a 1000. Okay, so let's go ahead and make label GPT, which go ahead and format everything. MK part primary 1 to 150,000. So if we do that, it should go ahead and do that. 750. So there we go. So we're going to type quit. So now if we do a lsblk, yeah, there we go. So I have a, well, it's not 750 gigs, but 3/4 of it was set aside for Windows, and I have a 233 gigabyte partition for Mac OS. Because I'm going to also cover installing Mac OS. I'm going to use that primarily for editing video and using the Adobe Suite for all that fun stuff. I'm going to do that in Macintosh, and the 700-ish gigabytes of remaining space is going to go for Windows for, well, gaming, because we're going to do a little bit of gaming on this system. So we're going to go ahead and create a new, now we can go ahead and create a new virtual machine. I'm going to go ahead and give it the Windows 10 ISO. Well, for installation, we'll give it 4 gigs of RAM and 2 CPUs. We are going to select, and here we're going to do dev nvme 1 and 1 partition 1. Actually, I'm skipping a step, actually. What we need to do is we need to go over to our internet browser of choice, and we need to grab the Vert IO drivers. This is from the Fedora project. We're going to go to the GitHub page for it, and we're going to grab the latest Vert IO Win ISO. The stable one, let's take a look at the version of the stable one. I don't think the stable one is up to date as the oh, it is. No, okay, never mind. They're both the same. Never mind. But go ahead and download the Vert IO Win drivers. So so those are downloading as I continue. So I'm gonna not enable I'm not gonna enable storage just yet, but we are gonna go ahead and customize configuration for install. I think this needs to be lowercase, so I'm just gonna call this Windows 10. It's called Win 10 by default, but I'm gonna call it Windows 10. So I'm gonna grab this here. And another thing with DWM is I have it set to not show borders. So there's that. So yeah, there's the Windows 10 ISO. We're gonna add hardware, and we're gonna do storage, CD-ROM, browse local, home, downloads, and then Vert.io. Click finish, and we're gonna add hardware. Select or create, and we're going to do dev NVMe 1&1 partition 1, and we're going to set the bus type to Vert.io. The reason we want to set this to a Vert.io bus type is because it'll make reads and writes to the disk a lot faster than having it on, say, SATA, and it'll definitely be faster than having that on USB. So we're going to go ahead and click finish. It doesn't see the boot. I'm also going to set the disk there. Don't worry about that again. Apply. So CD-ROM 1, I'll set that as the second boot, but after I install it, I'm going to remove it along with the CD-ROM. And as far as it goes, we need to go here, and it is very important that I tell it to be, the chipset needs to be Q35, and you need to select this UEFI EDK to OVMF underscore code.fd. You need to make sure you do that for EFI, otherwise you're going to have a bad time. I think that's it that we need to do. There's some other stuff that we're also going to do to the virtual machine, but for now, this should be good. I missed a step, didn't I? I think I missed a step because I forgot to give it the... I don't think we have... Can I just do VGA? Unsupported configuration. It doesn't have USB redirection. Let me remove USB redirectors real quick. Spice graphics are not supported. Okay, never mind. Let's just cancel this. So I know why. I'm going to close that. I need to go ahead and vim into etc portage package.use kvm. When you use Vert Manager, you need to do GTK, USB read dir, and Spice. And I think QXL is another one that you can enable. Change the use deep Vert Manager. Well, hopefully applying deep doesn't update anything too serious. Okay. How about new use? Okay, well then we'll just do that. Oh, reading helps. Yeah, it really does help to read. Well, it also helps to not delete everything. Emulation. I think QEMU is under app emulation QEMU. Yeah, so we need to do USB reader and then Spice, right quit, emerge QEMU. So that gets updated. And we're going to type yes so that it can do a Spice server and also USB redirection. Both of which are very important that we do. Otherwise, we're just going to have a bad time. Give it a sec. think, oof, there we go. I think Spice takes a moment, but QEMU might also take a decent amount of time. Okay, QEMU is about done compiling. So let me just finish what I'm doing here on my phone real quick. Okay. So now that that's done, we can go ahead and go back in, not that, Vert Manager. And we're going to go ahead and click this. Forward, click here, Windows 10, forward, disable that, customize, and then go into here. So we're back here. We need to set this to, I'm going to set that to Vert IO so I can turn on 3D acceleration. We need to go here, set this to OVMF code. Here we have the Windows 10 ISO. Add hardware, select, set this to CD-ROM. Browse local, set that to Vert IO. Hit finish, then add hardware. Go here, set this to Vert IO, and then dev NVMe 1-in-1 partition 1. And then set that higher, but if that, if it can't boot this, then it boots that. And I think that's actually it. So let's try Vert IO 3D acceleration is not supported. Well, that's unfortunate. So, let's kick this over to, can I kick this to Windows 3 at least? There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and view. I'm going to click full screen. And now we're going to basically go through the process for just doing a regular Windows installation. I don't have a product key because my product key is linked to my Microsoft account. I am also going to, to make this easier, You can do this on Windows 10 Home, but it is actually a lot easier to do this on Windows 10 Pro. So I'm just going to go ahead and install Windows 10 Pro. Accept the license agreement, click Custom. Now click Load Driver. Hit OK. Select that one for Windows 10. For the Vert IO driver, I guess this is also these are all that's all Windows Server, and then just go ahead and click Next on that. And now it's going to copy and do, well, it's almost like we're booting directly into the Windows installer. This is basically just us, well, installing Windows. Excuse me. So we're just doing a regular Windows installation. This shouldn't really take too long. It's basically copying files from one SSD to another. So okay, so the Windows installation is completed. That didn't take too long. Full screen. And now we're booting. And later on, we're also going to do some patches. Well, it's not really patches. It's more of just adding stuff into the XML file for the virtual machine. But we're going to be adding some nifty things, I would say, to to enable a feature in Windows that will actually mostly make it, or it should make it, where any game that has an anti-cheat won't trip the anti-cheat for, virtual machines, or it shouldn't. As far as I'm concerned, like most, if not all games that have an anti-cheat don't get tripped by it. So there's that. I mean, Rainbow Six Siege, Halo Infinite, as far as I'm concerned, won't have any kind of anti-cheat. So we're going to go ahead and just do the Windows 10 setup here. Going to do the network, which, by the way, if you have a Samba share on your local network, if you do it this way, it should also let you do it. Let me check. Oh, I need to do that, and then oh, there we go. Did I actually go and whoops, not that. Details is the virtual. Okay, the virtual network actually does automatically enable itself, so that's good. Set up for personal use. Oh, this is going to make me sign into my Microsoft account. I'm going to go ahead and pause this real quick and log in. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and sign into my Microsoft account. Create a PIN. Very secure 02020202. Very secure PIN. 1 in 202. Or 202 out of however. I don't know. We're going to go ahead and turn all of this stuff off because I I don't think Microsoft would mind if one person just turned that off. Only save files to this PC. This is a virtual machine. There is a lot of space so that if I want to install a game to the SSD, like Rainbow Six Siege, it might benefit, you know, GTA 5 if for whatever reason I decide to install that game. Definitely would maybe work a little better on might work a little better on an SSD, but as we all know, the meme of, you know, GTA 5 taking forever to start. Is it still accurate to this day? I don't know, but yeah, this is basically just Windows doing its normal shenanigans. I think the setup should be about done here. Again, this is on an SSD, so it's definitely not going to be, hopefully it's not going to be bottlenecked by I/O, but hey, I don't know. Okay, and funny enough, you can copy that, you can select that. You can't copy it, I've tried. So, here we go, Windows 10, turn that off, news and interest, turn that off, get that out of here. And I'm a sucker that likes my taskbar on the top. Yeah, this is not the most ideal display that we'd want to be using, and especially not this, but as you can see, it said that we can only use 697 gigs, and would you look at that, 697 gigabytes. And this is about, yeah, you can kind of see how bloated Windows is. 18.7 gigabytes, and this is just a new installation. And 18.7 gigabytes is just a lot. I could go ahead and make a stage 4 backup of the system, of my Linux system, and it'd be about 4 gigs. So it is almost 5 times smaller than this, and it's kind of insane. And also add a network location real quick. Custom network location. And as I said, you know, if you have a solid drive on your local network, it'll show it to you. It'll have it, as you can see. You know, there's that RX 480 ROM that I saved earlier. I just want to go to my programs, general, and I want to install Brave. So yeah, and if we go ahead and click on Task Manager and open it up, so far it sees it as an AMD EPYC Rome processor. As much as I would love to have an AMD EPYC Rome processor, I do not unfortunately have one. Yeah, that's also going to be misread, because my internet is not even that fast, like at all. Yeah, Windows might be struggling a little bit because of the like 4 gigs of RAM that it has access to, but don't worry, I'm going to be, because I'm running something like DWM and not like KDE, I can give it about 24 gigs of RAM and it shouldn't have a problem, because I think running Linux by itself, as long as I'm not merging anything, having 8 gigs left to the system should be plenty. So the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and turn Windows features on or off. we're going to click on the Hyper-V, and you're going to notice that we cannot turn on the Hyper-V hypervisor. That is what we need to do all of the cool virtual machine stuff. So, it got that background, so that's cool. We're going to go ahead and shut the system down. Now that we've gone ahead and shut it off, we are going to go over here. So I need to open this. And let me take a look here. Let me take a look. I think it was... Oh, wait, I remember. It's in here. Okay. So we need to go here, and we're going to go into the preferences. We need to enable XML editing. Oh, let's go to the CPUs real quick. So I'm going to change. You want to change this to host pass-through, and I have an 8-core 16-thread processor, but I don't want to give it 8 cores and 16 threads. I could, but I at least want to leave one core and 2 threads to the system. So I'm going to give it 7 cores, but I'm going to click 2 threads. So it'll give 2 threads for each core. And obviously, you know, if you have more sockets, well, I think you need to do 1 socket for every 8 processors. I'm not entirely sure how sockets work, but we're going to go ahead and click that. But we're going to go here to the overview, and we're going to go into the XML section. So we need to go to the topox section. So let's see. CPU, yeah, mode, host pass-through, check partial. Actually, check. Set this to none. And then cache mode equals, they're using quotation marks, we'll use them. Well, pass through feature policy equals require name equals topo ext, and go ahead and then click apply when you're done with that. And now another thing that we need to do that's actually really important is I'm going to go ahead and copy this, but I'll leave this XML file somewhere. I'll probably have it on the GitHub. I wouldn't recommend obviously using it because it's not going to work. But in this Hyper-V sector, we're going to go ahead and just put this in here. Click apply. I guess Hyper-V mode is going to put itself to custom. And then we need to go ahead and do IOAI or APIC driver equals KVM. Do that and then click apply. There is another thing here that you can do for the real-time clock. I'm just going to go ahead and just copy and paste it over here. But because I don't really feel like reading it out each line, but if you want, you know, to have the I think the RTC set correctly, then you need to do that. And once you're done, we're going to go ahead and boot the virtual machine back up. And you might ask, what changed? It's still the same old, but if we go to Task Manager, first off, it now sees the CPU correctly as an 8-core processor with 14 virtual processors. what we can do is go and turn Windows features on or off. If we click on the Hyper-V checkbox, we can now install the Hyper-V hypervisor, which is going to be really important. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and install that. So it's going to do its thing here, and then it's going to tell you that you need to restart your computer. Yep, restart now. And it's going to go ahead and just do all its shenanigans here. And it's going to reboot. So when it boots back up, the system is pretty much going to just think that this is a real Windows system, minus the fact that we don't really have a graphics card added to it. But if I go, if I go to Task Manager and I go to Performance, AMD Ryzen 7 3700X 8-core processor, cores 7 cores on an 8-core processor. I always love seeing that. So yeah, it sees all the caches correctly. The virtualization is obviously on. So as far as I'm concerned, it basically sees this and just it's gonna think, okay, well, it's a window. It's a no way. This is a virtual machine. Am I right? We're gonna ignore the fact that the clock speed is just static. You're gonna have to if you really want to see the speed that it's running at, you could just SSH into the system and then run htop or bash top or whatever you want to use. This is gonna be bugged out. There's no way. I don't think our internet runs that fast. 69, nice. So yeah. So now I'm gonna get to the fun part. So, what's the fun part, you say? Well, I like to call the fun part where we add a graphics card to it. But I have to do an extra step. So, what I need to do is I need to install a thing called vendor reset. And I also need to pull up the page for Gentoo modules, or loading kernel modules, well, when I load the system up. Okay. So Windows is going to have its moment shutting down. So, whatever. We're going to also... I'm going to exit the SU and I'm going to go into my Git folder. So I'm going to git clone https, not AUR, github.com/gnf vendor reset, and cd into vendor reset, and then make install. There we go. Is this done? Okay. While we're also in here, I'm going to go ahead and remove these two CD-ROM drives real quick, since I don't need them anymore, and obviously it's just going to boot on that. So, let's see. Okay. Let me check the instructions. So, make install, and then mod probe, or do that. Okay. So, now what I need to do is do as vim etc modules load. Is it? Let's see. Modules _ load.d / okay, so I need to make the directory. So mkdir etc modules load.d, and then do as vim etc modules load.d kvm.conf. And in here, we're going to do, well, vendor reset. Actually, hold on. Do as cat lib, or /lib, modules. $. And, let's see. $uname r modules dot built-in. Let's see. Let's do find uname r type f name ko. Let's see. Well, I guess I can just do mod probe and or do as mod probe vendor reset, and if that works, it's not installed. Make and then make install. I guess I have to actually run the make command first. I think. Then let me try do as mod probe vendor reset. I don't think I can use DKMS either. Oh. That's handy. So it turns out that, well, that's actually handy as hell. Okay. So I guess do as emerge vendor reset. I guess it's a package in Gentoo, so I don't like that. Well, I guess it's a module, so it's probably going to need that anyways. But yep, never mind. Yeah, that's not gonna work, is it? Okay. Vim etc or usr src kernel.config config underscore ftrace. It's y config underscore kprobes set to y config PCI quart set to y config calls sims set to y, and that's also set to y, and then whoops, not that, config function tracker is config function tracer is not set. Okay. So let's config function tracer. Not set. Config function tracer equals y. Let me do that real quick, and then do as, well, I don't need to do that, usr-src, do as cp kernel.config to linux.config, do as kernel.sh, let me just become root real quick. Okay, and then mk kernel.sh, because I don't know why. Okay. Kernel.config. And then cp kernel.config to linux config, and then ./mk kernel.sh, and if it okay, so I don't know what that's about. Menu config. Well, I guess let me search for it real quick. Let's see, search config function tracer. It is in kernel hacking and then tracers. Tracers. What was it called? What was it? It is main menu kernel tracers, or kernel hacking and then tracers. Kernel function tracker. Oh, there it is. And then oh, dot slet. Okay. mk kernel.sh. So hopefully this time it does. Okay, there we go. So now that that's turned on, that should actually work. And I'll need to reboot. So big oof, but whatever. I guess it wants to sit here and recompile the entire kernel. I thought it only rebuilt what it needed to rebuild, but whatever. I don't care too much. It's not that much of a drag. Where we get dinner? Oh, okay, sure. Okay, now that this kernel is done compiling, I'm going to go ahead and restart, so I'll be back. Alrighty, so I think this time, I think I fixed it. Okay, that's pretty good. This turned off. Let's see if this monitor will light up with something. And it does say it's running. Okay. Oh, yes, we got it. Let's go. So I had to make a change, and oh yeah, that's gonna be normal. Yeah, it's gonna be like all wide like this. It's gonna be wide boy. But who isn't a wide boy? So we need to go to the drivers, AMD. I need to install the AMD drivers. But as far as this, I guess part 1 to the actual KVM stuff in general, this would be part 2. We have, I mean, this is basically like, get out of here. Well, if it's going to be like that, I'll just move this. This is basically set up. I just need to install the AMD drivers, and then I think after that, I don't think there's anything I need to do. It should just work. I need to censor that because goddamn Skype is showing my email address, because fucking why not? Pardon. But I forgot about something. Oh well, no, there it is. Well, I guess then that means it's fine. No longer wide boy, but we're still gonna install the official AMD drivers for compatibility. But as far as concerned, this is basically set up correctly. I also need to go and add the other hard drive to this virtual machine that has the Steam library for virtual machines. But as far as I'm concerned, this is basically set up. I don't think there's anything else I need to do. So, I mean, I guess at this point, just be me setting up a Windows install, which is boring, and I don't want to cover that. So I think for this, I think we're going to call part 1 to the actual KVM stuff. I think we're going to call it here. Part 2 will be covering Mac OS. And then if I get around to it, then part 3, just click install on this. Part 3 will be the kernel config, or actually, well, I guess part 4 technically. So part 2, which is me getting virtual machines to work and then getting Windows working. Part 3 will be getting Mac OS working. And then part 4, if I get around to it, will be kernel configuration. And yeah. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.